On the radio, on KRLD, fall back on. No? I was afraid of the construction that work they were doing, they were going to go off. We were up 16 That's when that morning they didn't get any picture balls. I think the problem was early. They hit them. Yeah, I went into it and I'm like, you told us that we were here. I'm glad you called. It was back the next morning. We were all good. It was just after lunch, and then Ace had food, but we made the room. I didn't think about it too much, but I brought down all the water. Yeah, everybody worked.
Yeah, I still get it. Yeah, Yeah, or go to huntcountynews.tv and you'll see the live feed. Is that it? No, that's the server. Yeah, it's go to huntcountynews.tv.
Okay, let the record show that we are out of closed session at 6:36. Excuse me, and there will be no action taken on items discussed during closed session. At this time, we'd like to invite Pastor David Salazar to give us our invocation and lead us in our pledge of allegiance.
How you doing? I'm gonna guide you guys so we can pray tonight. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, our Lord, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your mercy. I thank you for all the things that you give us. Thank you for the rain that we have tonight. Father, I want to put this situation, oh Lord, and we want to put everything that is going to be done in here in your hands. We ask for your guidance. Father, I want to pray for this school also. I want to pray for this place. I want to put each and every teacher in your hands. I want to put the principal in your hands. Father, be with all the teachers in this place. Give them the knowledge so they can teach our kids. Give them peace, oh Lord. Give them patience. Give them the strength. Father, use every man and every woman in this school for your glory. Padre, te doy gracias en esta noche por tu amor, por tu vida, por tu fidelidad, por tu misericordia. Gracias porque me permites estar en este lugar. Te pido que bendigas, Señor, a cada familia representada aquí, que seas con el principal, que seas con las familias, que seas con los maestros, y que bendigas sus vidas, Señor, que guardes a cada niño en este lugar, y que nos ayudes, Señor, a poder representarte. Ayúdanos a ser la luz y la sal de esta tierra. Oh Lord, we thank you for everything again that you give us. We put everything that we're going to do tonight in your hands. Please help us to be the light. Help us to be the salt in this earth so your name can be glorified. Thank you for each and every man and woman that are here gathering tonight to discuss every theme that they're going to talk tonight. Be with us, Father, and we thank you. We love you for everything that you do in our lives. In the powerful name, in the name that is above all name, the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Salazar. And I'm sorry I said you were going to lead us in our pledge of allegiance, but we have our ROTC. We're going to present our colors.
He was right.
About face. Freezing. Colors.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gary. Colors. Ready. Cut. Forward. March.
Next item on our agenda tonight is one where we recognize our students. We have two recognitions.
President, Dr. Liggins, and members of the board. We have two special recognitions this evening. The first is for a talented group of student athletes and their coaches and trainers. This fall, our varsity football team earned the best record since 2009. There is nothing like a great football season and the magic of Friday night lights to bring a community together. And we want to thank you, Lions, for the 5-5 season. It was a highlight for all of us in Greenville, and we want to recognize you, the seniors, along with your coaches and your trainers. I'd like to ask Athletic Director and Varsity Football Coach Darren Duke to tell you a bit about the season and to recognize his seniors, coaches, and trainers. Please come forward, Coach Duke.
I don't know if I need a microphone, but I'll come forward either way. Certainly not shy. You want to come over here? Never mind. I'll stay right here, sir. Okay. And so I'm very excited to be here. Thank y'all very much. You know, we do what we do because we love being around the kids, and you know, to see them have the success. I haven't blocked anybody or tackled anybody, thank goodness, in a long time. And so, you know, we asked them to do it better. You know, we had over 20 seniors finish the season, and when you haven't seen winning, you know, there's a lot of schools playing and they have the tradition and a history, and you know, so they're trying to protect the tradition. Well, that's pretty easy to do, but what was difficult to do was to ask them to make some tradition, you know, to set that, you know, to well, we're gonna do boot camp, we're gonna put in all this work. Well, everybody's been doing that, so we did it more, we did it better, we did it harder. I fussed a little more, and loved on them a little more, and everything in between. And so it's the thing is special to play high school football, especially in Texas, not just because of where we are in the sport, but there's so many people involved, so many groups involved, and it's such an event Friday night. And so if you come out to the games, you know what I'm talking about. There's so many different groups involved, and they get to showcase the band, the cheerleaders, the, you know, on and on, the Flaming Flashes, which is a outstanding organization with a great leader. I mean, there's that, and so, you know, I mean, but they're, you know, and so everybody, it's a show for everybody, and we're very proud to be a part of that, and proud to kind of return us where we expect Greenville football to be. A big part of that is our trainers, led by our full-time trainer, not just a coach that says, here you go, son, get up and go back out there and play. You know, we have a full-time trainer who does a great job, Carly Callender. Thank you very much. Ms. Callender, you have a couple of your trainer girls here to recognize?
You want them up there?
You can do it from right there.
Okay. These are my 3 seniors this year. I have Alexis Angel, who was in her first year this year. I have Lisbeth De La O, who is my only 4th year.
Ms. Callender?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry, will y'all all come up?
Yep.
You too, Ms. Callender, come on.
Come on.
And last but not least, I have Samaje Hubbard, who's in her 3rd year.
Thank y'all very much, and everything that you do for all the athletes, not just football, but you know, they start before school starts and they work through the holidays and every sport in between. So we're very proud to have them.
Are we doing pictures? No.
One, two, three. Perfect.
Thank you.
Next, a group of men, and they work 7 days a week during football season, and you know, the families sacrifice, and we sacrifice, and we do all that because you know, that's the way to do the job the right way, and it's important to us, and we're going to continue to do that. And I asked a lot of them, and they worked hard. We did 7-on-7 2 nights a week. We did an extra lineman challenge and whatever it was, you know, the coaches stepped up and they really led that, and they lead these young men, not just in football, but you know, to become young men and to become the leaders that we expect them to be. And I'm very proud of the coaches and the work that they did also. And so when I call y'all's name, coaches, if y'all will just come up here, and some of them are kind of big, so we're going to have to make some room. So, but anyways, Coach Alexander, our offensive coordinator. Coach Alexander's worked with me at my previous school as well for a long time, and a lot of times we're always on the same page, and anytime we're not, I let him know that we're not on the same page. But a real pleasure to be able to have my defensive coordinator as a young man that I coach the ball. I mean, on the offensive side, our offensive line coach, Travis Smith. Coach Smith and Coach Alexander have both been head coaches, and it's just invaluable to, you know, to have that experience and to have those, you know, those guys that have been in that situation. And so it's been a tremendous asset to have both of them with us. Our offensive line coach, Blaine Roman. Our running backs coach and also our head baseball coach, Nick Cazole. And our wide receivers coach, Matt Hanson. We have 2 newlywed coaches on staff, so I'm not sure if I will get as much out of them next year, but we'll try to build on that. And so anyway, that would be the 2 young, handsome coaches on the end there. Congratulations. Congratulations to y'all, too, increasing our Lion family, adding some wives on. Our players, I'll try to go real quick here in alphabetical order. We'll get them up. You want to do them?
Let's do coaches.
Yeah,
and
let's get them
then we'll
first.
see if
Told
we
you,
get
not enough
everybody
room
in
for
one
everybody.
shot.
All right. Look right here. 1, 2. Oh. Come jump in. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Man, y'all are rehearsed.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
I think we've got one more photographer. Take your time.
One more, ESPN.
Thanks, coach. And we'll try to just kind of hold our applause. Let me get the kids up here, and we'll kind of do that at the end. Evidently, it's not just my show tonight. I didn't know. That's okay. That's okay. Asked all of our seniors to come. Obviously, a lot of them have some things going on, working, etc. A lot of our kids jumped right out of the gym or right off the soccer fields, and these are all young men that I'm proud of. They did a great job. Jaquan Allen, come on to the front, guys. We'll get your picture. Colton McNair, Jimmy Enriquez, Luis Garcia, Robert Mora. So hard not to say bye. Jose Perez and Nakia Wilson.
Okay, we're going to get a picture of just the students, but y'all have to squish in, make 2 lines.
Okay.
A little more,
Squeeze
a little
on
tighter. There
in
you
a little
go.
bit. There you go. Okay, look right here. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Take your time. You all can come up.
There we go.
I think we need one big group shot, and then we'll do the info. So trainers and coaches, see if we
Trainers
can-
and coaches, please.
see if we can squeeze everybody in one picture. Come on.
One with everybody.
Tall people in the back.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Look right here. 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. There you go.
Thank you
Way to
very
go.
much.
Thank you guys for a wonderful year.
All
Next
right.
item is our recognition of our hero of hope.
Our hero of hope, we will show you the video and the rest will speak for itself. So, right here.
Peggy Williams has a beautiful soul. She is helpful. She is loving. She is passionate about helping others, which is so rare. And she just loves life. I can't.
She's a very nice teacher, and she's very kind.
And she is one of the kindest, most caring, wonderful people that I've ever had the privilege to know.
Like, sometimes we work, but, like, oh, she's just really nice.
She is fantastic. I mean, she does things without us asking. She goes above and beyond. She cannot stay idle, so she's always looking for something to do, which really helps us. She runs things off for us. She is fantastic with the ISS kids. We would die if we didn't have her for a life choice. The one big thing about Miss Williams is all the little things. It's the little things that she does.
She's always smiling and always offering to help. Always, always smiling.
Peggy Williams. Congratulations, I hear she has been rocking this cape all week. We even told her if you're the December Hero of Hope, you can take it home with you. So she's pretty excited.
Here we go.
This is Willie Morgan from Lone Star Credit Union, and yes, you get $100. Certificate.
Okay, y'all. Squeeze in a little. All right, 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Are there any friends from Crockett who want to come up and get in the picture? You're welcome to do so. Say no. Okay. Congratulations.
to the school board about. As usual, there is no dialogue in this section. However, we do listen to everything that our citizens tell us when they're up here at this podium. There are just a few rules that you need to follow. Number one, your conversation has to be 5 minutes or less. Secondly, you cannot speak the name of an individual, either teacher or student, in public forums such as today. However, and you must fill out one of these cards. If there's anybody else who would like to talk to us, who would like to tell us, and don't think that we don't listen because we're not answering you back. We do listen, but there's no dialogue going on at this time, okay? Anybody else would like to fill out one of these cards and, okay. If you would, when I call your name, come to the podium and tell us your name, your address, and you've got 5 minutes after that. Okay, Alan Atkins, please.
Good evening, Madam President, trustees, Mr. Superintendent. I'm Al Atkins, 2510 Rolling Hills Drive, here in Greenville. I'm here tonight again to say thank you. Thank you for your prompt review and attention to the 2 communications issues that were raised at the last workshop. The corrections were greatly appreciated. As a result of the additional information being made available online for public review, I noted several items of interest on tonight's agenda. One item is especially concerning, and that's item 8, the first report card. The introductory cover letter highlights a superior financial rating with a 98% grade for 2017. While this rating should be met with accolades, it's based on fiscal year 15-16 financial data. Considering the new financial team's continued findings of financial mismanagement resulting in budget amendments, the citizens could easily consider this data suspect. In my opinion, any public promotion of this rating without full disclosure of the ongoing problems would be misleading. In the past few months, I've read the stories and I've heard the calls for a forensic audit of the district finances. Tonight, I join that chorus. As with each meeting, one thing is becoming clear. Short of a holiday miracle, any recovery from our current financial situation will require a tax increase to restore the required reserves. I share your concerns regarding the expenditures for such an audit, but there appears no other way around it. The continued publicity and the discussion on social media have made it a necessity. If you intend to lift the cloud that has descended on GISD's reputation. This forensic audit must include the 2014 bond, its proceeds and its expenditures. Was the $200,000 spent at TxDOT properly accounted for? Was the $1 million moved from the buoy project in disregard of the ballot language properly administered? Were there additional proceeds from the bond? Were the additional proceeds from the bonds that were sold at a premium correctly managed? All this must be publicly answered for the sake of the future of the district and for community growth. That said, as always, I thank each and every one of you for what you do, and Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year to you all. Thank you.
Next, Terry Driggers.
I'm Terry Driggers, 1596 County Road 3128, and today I've battled.
Let me interrupt
yes,
you
ma'am.
for just a minute. Guys, if you would please keep your applause after our speakers have presented. If you would please let us go on with the presentations. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry.
No problem, thank you. Today I wondered all day who I was coming here to represent. You know, and I thought about the taxpayer who's paying their bills right now with 50% of it is school tax. I've thought about the teachers that are scared to speak out in the messages and the texts and the phone calls that I've listened to and recorded for 2 months now for being threatened to their jobs if they speak out. From either the superintendent or whoever the assistant superintendent is. And that's shameful. That's real shameful when our teachers are scared to come speak out. I'm disappointed in this whole board. Some of you I've known for a long time. Some of you since I was walking and crawling. And I think you're the ones that ought to take the stand for this forensic investigation. There's problems. Y'all have all admitted there's problems. It's all over this town. We're not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but it's time to take action, and action now. What I do for a living is I try to sell Greenville every day. I don't care how many new businesses we got coming. I don't care how many new superintendents we got. Until we have a school system we can be proud of, we have nothing in Greenville, Texas. Nothing. Ms. Stafford, you reached out to me yesterday and pretty much confirmed there is a problem, but y'all can't come out and talk about it. Okay, well, would you like me to read your message? Okay.
No dialogue, I'm sorry.
So now we're pretty sure that there's a problem within the school district. Rumors all over town, from the police department to your teachers to your staff, talking about $1 million, $2 million, all this money. Talking about we can't do the right thing because the administration won't let us. But let me tell you, today I visited with the state. And my question is, can the citizens, the taxpayers, whoever's got the money to put up, bring somebody in to investigate every one of you if you've got something to hide? It takes 2 of you to put something on the agenda. And who I came to represent today, I met a credible principal this morning at Lamar School named Miss Thompson. I've never seen her in my life, or Thomas. And then 120 kids sat in my lap today as Santa Claus and told me their dreams. And right then, that's who I decided, Terry Driggers, you better get your tail up there and you better fight for the future of this town, for the future of these kids, all these football players you just recognized, the military kids that just walked out here. That's, guys, is who you represent. Not him, not somebody you're covering up for. You represent this town and all those kids. Now stand up, somebody or 2 of you, and do the right thing.
Next person to address the board is Joe DeGarso.
Good evening, Joe DeGarso, 3108 Bonham, Greenville, Texas here. Talk about the budget, the revised budget. I was here at the 27 November board meeting, called board meeting. I'm still trying to get my head around how we approved an overrun after 2 months. And I know there were other issues, new, staff is new. How do we go up $4.5 million on the budget, increase revenue $1.2 million? And I agree with what you said and what you said, somewhat. And the reason it passed 5-1, I do agree with you. The budget's going to be, the actuals are going to be what they're going to be at the end of the year. But the part that I don't get is the follow through. What are we doing? And let me remind you, I don't have the direct numbers. We had a $6.4 to $7 million overrun 2016-17. We had at that time approximately $11 million in the fund balance, which is the savings account. You take that out, that leaves approximately $4 million. You're going to overrun $2.7 million, and as you indicated, and others had indicated that it will. You think that's going to be lower. So I'm just going with the 2.7. That leaves 1.3 million in our savings fund balance. 1.3 million at the 31 August board meeting. The interim CFO said The state guidelines for that fund balance is 3 months of expenses. I don't have the month in November expenses because I don't believe they were printed for the public yet. So all I got is what was in October, month in October. At that time, it's 3.8. It's what our monthly expenses were for 2 months. 7.6 is what I'm getting to. Now, just quick math, 3.8 times 3 months is around 11.4 million. We have 1.3 if it holds what you passed. If it holds to what you passed, only going down 2.7. Also, I'll come back to that in a second. Look, as I told you, I was an internal auditor for Parkland Hospital for 8 years. I did financial and operational audits. I did exactly the stuff that I think needs to happen. Didn't know these guys were going to say forensic audit as well, but it needs to happen. I don't know the price. I'm going to guess $150,000. We got 1.3 million left. If it's 150,000, we're down. It needs to be done. Whatever needs to be done to get to the bottom of it. Whoever it comes out to. And we don't need to hold people back. Everybody needs to be held accountable to get us going forward. I do think, like you said, that there will be changes in 18-19 school year. But folks, I don't know that we're going to get there. I think we're going to turn into Wilmer Hutchins before. And I hate that. I hate that because I grew up 3 blocks from here. This is my school. This is Lamar to me. And I hate that. Gosh. We have to do something to change. We have to do something. I know the state. I'm assuming the state. I don't know. I'm assuming the state has a lag of when they conduct their audits for current year or even the previous year. So we may be able to get ourselves out before we get into a bad situation to where they come in and take us over. I hope we don't go to that. I don't want us to go to that. You are smart people. Y'all are smart. Everybody's doing what they can do to get to a good place. I don't know that there's going to be enough time to get there. Good luck. Good luck.
Next person that we have to speak is Mr. James Evans.
James Evans, 6410 Buena Vista Drive, Greenville, Texas, 75402. Good evening. I've heard the concerns of tonight's speakers, and I feel I must add the following. GISD has struggled with test scores for the past several years, as have other school districts. Greenville's challenges are amplified by the fact that over the past 10 years, the per capita personal income in our city has decreased from $26,138 to $19,201. That's a decline of approximately $7,000 per person. To meet these changing socioeconomic factors, other societal changes, and the test score issues found on some GISD campuses, the new administration had to make instructional changes. Let me stress that I feel many of the test score issues on the specific campuses have been caused by past district decisions and not by the teaching staff. As former Superintendent Dr. Herman Smith often quoted, if you continue to do the same old things, you'll continue to get the same old results. I feel other needed changes will be coming, along with the required support for our staff. If the staff will continue to communicate with Dr. Liggins, I feel the majority of the staff's concerns will be resolved in the coming months. The largest roadblock impeding Dr. Liggins' ability to address teacher concerns is the current physical condition of GISD. It's floating in a sea of red ink that Dr. Liggins inherited. As I stated at the August board meeting, I both like and support Dr. Demetrius Liggins. My demands tonight are intended to support Dr. Liggins in his efforts to make GISD what it once was and can be again. The Friday, September 1st Herald Banner reported that I requested that Greenville ISD conduct a forensic audit to examine why there are insufficient funds in the 2017-18 budget to give pay raises to district employees. The Wednesday, December 6th Herald Banner reported many still have questions about how the district ended with a $6.4 million deficit after the 2016-17 academic year and already has a $2.7 million overage for the 17-18 school year. In a recent conversation with a superintendent of another district, they stated the first thing they did the morning after being named superintendent of their district was to order a forensic audit for their own protection. And their district was in great financial condition. Dr. Liggins deserves this same level of protection. The tax-paying citizens of this town, the students and staff deserve to know why GISD is facing such alarming budgetary deficits. In past years, how many times have I sat in board meetings and heard a board member state, "It's better than it's ever been before"? How many times did I look sick while sitting through those board meetings? Tonight, I'm back, demanding a forensic audit of GISD's financial records. Tonight, I'm back, demanding that the forensic audit be conducted by an outside firm with no prior ties to GISD, nor any state educational agency or department. Tonight, I'm back, demanding the complete results of the forensic audit be made available to the public. Tonight, I'm back, demanding the resignation of any GISD board member who opposes conducting a forensic audit of GISD's financial records or opposes any of the other conditions I've just specified. There is a growing group of concerned citizens. We're not going away. Again, I support Dr. Liggins in his efforts. Thank you, and sincerely, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Once again, let me reiterate, there is no dialogue. We heard your concerns. We heard your concerns about what it is that you think is going on in the district, and believe me, we will get answers for you. Okay. Next item on our agenda is the public hearing on Texas Academic Performance Report, our taper report.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Liggins, members of the board. I'm going to get the light real quick. I'm here tonight to present the district's annual report as required. I want to start with just a general reminder about our accountability. In August of the 2017 school year, we received our accountability ratings for each district and campus in Greenville. Our accountability rating is based on 4 indexes. The first one is student achievement, the second one is student progress, the third is closing the performance gaps, and the fourth is post-secondary readiness. The data reflected in that accountability report that we received in August 2017 is also reflected on this Texas Assessment Performance Report, or TAPER. I have noted the criteria here in just a nice little one-pager that TEA provides, and on that I have denoted the page numbers within the actual district TAPER report where you will find similar data. The data on the TAPER report is disaggregated in numerous ways, a little bit differently than you see it on the accountability report, but you can see that the data is very similar. There are 7 sections to the annual report that we're required to present. One is the 2016-2017 TAPER. As a reminder, this is based on last school year's data. The PIMS financial standards report, and you'll be getting more about the financial reports and things later on throughout the presentation this evening. The 2016-17 district accreditation status, the campus performance objectives, the report on violent or criminal incidences on campuses, student performance in post-secondary institutions, and also the 2016-2017 TAPER glossary. The glossary does include the formulas, will reference the resources that are used in calculating the numbers that you'll see on the report. The TAPER report is compiled by TEA for every district and campus using PIMS data and student assessment data. There are some significant changes on the 2016-2017 TAPER. The two most significant changes, number one, is that there is 2 years of data reflected. It's been several years since we've had a TAPER report come out that had more than 1 year of data. The reason that 1 year of data has been reflected in the past is due to changes within the assessment and accountability system. We now have a system that was in place in the 16-17 school year that mirrored the system in place the prior year. So now you have 2 years of data that you can compare. And then the second is the new terminology for the STAR performance levels. We used to have a term called level 2 satisfactory, but the state decided that that was not very clear as to what that really communicated out to the public, and that terminology has been changed to the terminology of approaches grade level. You will see the term meets grade level, which was formerly known as level 2 post-secondary, and you'll see master's grade level, which was formerly known as level 3 advanced. The TAPER is organized into 5 parts. The first part is the cover page, which includes our accountability rating, our special education determination status, which is only given to districts, and the 2017 distinction designations that district or campuses would have earned. The second part of that is the 16-17 performance, where we look at our STAR results. The third portion is the 16-17 participation. That is the number of students or percentages of students that we actually have that we actually assess on the STAR test. Then we have information on the 16-17 attendance and post-secondary readiness. It is important to note that while it says 16-17 attendance and post-secondary readiness, the data that's reflected in that section of the report is for the 15-16 and 14-15 school years. It is not for last year's data. And then the last portion is the 16-17 profile, which looks at other factors across the district and campuses. On our cover page, you'll see that Greenville ISD did meet standard, as did all of our campuses throughout the district for the 2016-2017 school year. And we have a special education determination status as needs assistance. Mr. Gerald Jackson will be co-presenting with you this evening, so later in the report he will do a separate section on that determination, what that means and how that is calculated for you. Part 2 of the report is STAR assessment data. It is the performance of our students at the approaches grade level measure or above. It also disaggregates and looks at meets grade level or above, master's grade level or above. It includes reading and math progress, looking at did the student progress from 1 year to the next. It also includes the STAR results from the 2017 accountability school year. The 2017 accountability school year begins with summer testing in June or July, depending upon when the state sets the date, for 2016, with December 16, including spring EOCs and STAR grades 3 through 8. It also includes only the results for students that are considered to be in an accountability subset. The accountability subset is made up of students who were present the last Friday, they were present and enrolled the last Friday of October, and were also present and enrolled the day that we assessed. Where they were in between time is not measured here, so if they unenrolled, went somewhere else, and then came back the day of the test, if they were here in October and they're here the day of the test, then they are counted as hours, as they are across any other district. I would like to point out that if an 8th grader took the Algebra 1 EOC, the results are included in Algebra 1 results and not in the 8th grade mathematics results, so as we go further into the STAR data, you'll just have that background knowledge and understanding. So I put together some slides. This is grade 3 reading. I'd like to point out that really these 3 bars here tell kind of a big story. This bar here is our white students, our Hispanic students, and our African American students. As you will see as we go through all of these slides, you're going to see that there's going to be anywhere from a 20 to 25 point difference between our white and African American performance, and somewhere between a 10 to 15 point difference between our Hispanic and our white as well. Grade 3 mathematics, you'll see that trend does continue between those three groups, white, Hispanic, and African American. Grade 4 reading, the margin there is just a little bit larger. Grade 4 mathematics, the margin does not vary quite as greatly. Grade 4 writing, again the disparity continues between the ethnic groups. Grade 5 reading, the white group is at 86%, the African American at 49%, and Hispanic is at 72%. Grade 5 mathematics, the numbers are definitely a little bit closer together. However, there is still about a 20-point disparity between the white and the African American subgroup. Grade 5 science, I will point out that 5th grade science is the first time that we assess a science test for the students, and it does contain content that is taught in 3rd grade, 4th grade, and then in 5th grade. Grade 6 reading. Grade 6 mathematics. Our mathematics performance is a little bit stronger than our reading performance at the current time. Grade 7 reading, we do have one bar that is 100%, that represents the Asian subgroup, and it's a very small group of students. The disparity between African American and white from 48% to 81%. Grade 7 mathematics. It's important to note here on grade 7 mathematics, you'll see that the disparity between the three races is not quite as extensive. However, in grade 7, we have a group of pre-AP honors students that are taking the grade 8 mathematics test, and their results are reported within the grade 8 mathematics group. Grade 7 writing, you do see the disparity continue there as well. Grade 8 reading. Grade 8 mathematics. Included in that grade 8 mathematics are those 7th grade advanced students. We do have a group of students, around 100 of our 8th grade students that are taking Algebra 1, and you'll see their results will populate in the Algebra 1 group. Grade 8 science. This is the second time we assess the science. We assess it for the first time in 5th grade, and we do not assess again until the 8th grade. Grade 8 social studies. This is the first grade level in which we give a social studies assessment. The STAR English 1 end of course. This does include retester data, so if we have students that have failed the test previously at the high school level, then they are also included in this data as well. Even though they may have been included in last year's data as an original tester, we do have them reflected again in this data as well. English 2 data, again, we're looking at still that 20 to 24% point difference, 10 to 15% point difference between Hispanic and white. Algebra 1. Our biology results. And our U.S. history results. Excuse me. This is all subjects, all tests together, the data combined. And you can see here that that trend between the white group, the Hispanic group, and the African American group continues. This is for all grades reading, so that's going to be grades 3 through 8 plus your English 1 and English 2, and of course combined together. All grades for mathematics. All grades for writing. So this is only grade 4 and grade 7. all grades science, which would be 5, 8, and biology end of course. Social studies, which is grade 8, and U.S. history. The next slide represents the percent of our students that are meeting or exceeding progress on their test. That's a measure that looks at one student and compares his score one year to his score the following school year. So here you can see that the bars are fairly evenly represented across all groups, which probably indicates that the students are capable of learning and capable of that growth. In mathematics, the bars are also similar here. Continuing into part 2 of the table, this has progress of prior year's non-proficient students in reading and mathematics for grades 4 through 8. So we're tracking the students and their prior year's progress, looking to see if they're making growth as they move forward. It also disaggregates the data for the Student Success Initiative. Students in grades 5 and 8 are required to pass their STAR exam in order to promote to the next grade level. If they do not meet those requirements, then there is a grade placement committee that is formed and some requirements there that are set forth by the state to look at promoting or to look at retaining those students based on a criteria. The results are also disaggregated for our bilingual and ESL dependent upon the type of program that districts or campuses are running, and it looks at those results in various manners. Part 3 does talk about participation. It looks at the percent that we tested or that we did not test. So we may not have tested or assessed a student because they may have been absent the day, maybe they were ill and were not able to come in and make the assessment up within the allotted window. It also tracks out of those that we tested, what percent of them are actually included in our accountability subset. So that is where we can get an idea of the mobility that we have with those that were here in October but weren't here present to test. Part 4 looks at attendance and post-secondary readiness. It is important again to note that this is based on 15-16 and 14-15 data. It is a trailing indicator where the data lags several years behind before we see it appear on our taper report. It's attendance data, it's dropout rates, longitudinal and annual graduation rates and the types of graduation plans that the students are on, and college and career readiness indicators, which include advanced courses, dual credit, college career ready graduates as defined by TEA, CTE coherent sequence, AP, course completions and results, SAT, and graduates that are enrolling in Texas institutions of higher education. You'll see here our attendance. You'll note the differences in the subgroups here is very, very small. Our kids come to school. We get them here. Our annual dropout rate, you'll notice that the bars are quite low here, and that's what we'd like to see. We don't like to have any dropouts. This first bar here, the tallest one, that is the state dropout rate for grades 7 through 8. This is the dropout rate for grades 9-12. 2.9 here is the tallest bar we have. That's for a group called 2 or more. That is a very small group of students, meaning that one student does increase or decrease a percentage because they count more, if you will. If you think about 100-point test or a 100-question test versus a 20-question test, there's a different weight to the number of questions. So that can cause that increase as well. Our 4-year longitudinal graduation rates. This is the class of 2016. This is not the class of 2017. This is our 5-year longitudinal. This reflects the class of 2015. We have the class of 2015-16 college ready graduates, English language arts. Again, you see that disparity between those race ethnicities is still prevalent throughout these slides. College ready graduates in mathematics. And then this is college ready for both subjects, meaning that they met the state criteria for both math and reading at the same time. Here's the college and career readiness graduates information. Our average SAT scores. Our average ACT scores. Part 5 goes into student information based on fall 2016 PEAM submission for enrollment. It includes enrollment by grade level, by ethnicity, giving us all types of different indicators on retention rates and class size information, as well as staff information. And that again, the staff information is based on the fall 2016 PEAM submission. And program information, so student enrollment by program type, teachers by program type. Our student ethnic distribution, on the left you'll see this is the GISD pie, and on the right is the state's pie. Our race, ethnicity, and diversity is changing in Greenville ISD. We are now a majority-minority district in that the African American and Hispanic population are now the largest two populations that we have in Greenville ISD. So the results, as we've gone through the slides, are very concerning as our population is changing. Economically disadvantaged, for the prior year, we're at 68.2%. We were at 20.9% English language learners. We had less than 1% of students with disciplinary placements, and that is 15-16 data. It is another trailing indicator. And our at-risk population was at 66.1%. Our students with disabilities divided by primary disability type, these would be our special education students. We have 578 students that were reported for that prior school year. 46% of those students were students with intellectual disabilities, 26.1% students with physical disabilities, 8.3% students with autism, students with behavioral disabilities at 17.0, and students with non-categorical early childhood is at 2.6. These are students that are young, ages possibly 3 to 5, that it's too early to tell what the true nature of their disability is due to their age and due to assessments and things of that nature. As they age through the system, then they do get recategorized as appropriate. The distribution of our teachers' diversity, this is Greenville ISD, and the state here again is on the right. We are 81.9% white, where the state is at 59.8% white. And just to do a quick comparison, you can see our student demographics here on the left, compared to our teacher demographics here on the right. We do have plans in place through our 5-year strategic planning process, measures that we are going to be implementing to work on that disproportionate representation so that our staff hopefully becomes more representative of our student body. Teachers' years of experience. We are very closely mirroring the state here. We only have 6.8% of our teachers being beginning teachers, which says a lot about our staff and their commitment to Greenville ISD. Our program enrollment, this lists our bilingual, our career and tech ed, our gifted and talented, and our special education. It's important to note that on this report, when they are talking career and technical education, that is calculated with the total number of students enrolled in a CTE course divided by the total district student population. That population in the denominator is not exclusive to grades 9 to 12. The next component of the report is the 15-16 PEAMS actual financial data report. That report is available on the Texas Education website. And it shows for the district receipts, fund balances, disbursements, program expenditures, tax rates, 2014 tax year certification property values, and unassigned fund balance. On the 15-16 actual financial data for the campus, You'll see expenditures by object, expenditures by function, and program expenditures by program. The 2016-2017 district accreditation status. Every year, TEA assigns one of four statuses: accredited, accredited warrant, accredited probation, not accredited revoked. It is assigned, TEA considers academic, financial, data integrity, and program area deficiencies identified through PBMAS, which is the performance-based monitoring assessment system that Mr. Jackson will be going over here in just a few moments. And I'm pleased to say that for the 16-17, we were an accredited district. That accreditation status years prior is also available on the district website through a link to TEA's website. Campus improvement plans, those are going to be presented later on in the agenda to you. I know you have those in your board packet, and so those will be gone over at that time. But we are required to develop campus improvement plans. Those campus improvement plans are to be based on the data that's being reported to you here from last year, from accountability, from the TABOR reports, and upon your approval, those will be posted on the district website probably before we leave for the day tomorrow. We are required to do a report on violent or criminal incidents. The report must include the number, rate, and type of violent or criminal incidents that occurred on each campus. I'm pleased to report that we had 0 violent and criminal incidences reported on our campuses. So we are a safe school district as defined here. Student performance in post-secondary institutions is also required to be included in the annual report. This data is data that is compiled by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So this is information that is being provided to TEA via Texas public colleges and universities. It looks at the measures of grade point averages, and it tracks students who graduated in 14-15 looking at their performance in the next school year. So this is also a trailing indicator. We have information on the 14-15 graduates broken down by Greenville High School and by the New Horizons Learning Center. That report and all other districts across the state of Texas is available at the data source link below. This report will be posted online, so if anyone in the public would like to access that, they will have the ability to do so as well. The TABOR glossary also provides us with definitions, the methodologies. It lists the sources for each of the data points in the TABOR. So if you're looking at data and you're wondering, where did that come from? What numbers did they use? How did they calculate that number? Then that information is provided in the TABOR for you. And there is a glossary available for viewing. That report will be translated into Spanish by the Texas Education Agency and made available to us sometime in January. There will be a link posted on our website for the public to be able to access that. And now I'd like to move into the special ed portion of this presentation, and we'll have Mr. Jackson come up.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Liggins, members of the board. My name is Paul Jackson. I am the Director of Special Programs in our Department of Special Education, and I would like to go over the information from the TABOR report and how we get our determination status in special education. So as Ms. Striggers indicated, on that first page of the TABOR report, we did meet standards.
Can I interrupt you for just a minute? I see that we have people who are leaving. This is a public hearing with the TABOR report, so which means that if they had questions, they could, once the presentation has been made, they could ask questions and get an answer for it. Okay, you go ahead. I just want to mention.
Absolutely, a lot of information. So with that, we met standard for our accountability, but you've noticed that on that first page, you saw that a special education determination status was listed as meets assistance. So what I want to do is go over how that determination status, our rating, is provided, and give you a little bit of background on that and let you know where that comes from. So just to let you know, our federal government, through the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, reauthorized in 2004, mandates that all of our state agencies look at annual performance of special education programs for each local district. So we look at those indicators to determine how our district is doing with regard to special education. So that means that there are federal requirements that guide state action on reviewing district performance every year. So how does Texas do this for special education? We do it through our annual taper report, which Ms. Driggers has gone through and shown you some information about how our students are performing. But also we look at the performance-based monitoring analysis system, our PBMAS, to determine that data. So that report looks at an aggregation, an aggregation of accountability measures from the state and the federal government. So because of that, districts can receive one of 4 special education determination statuses that are then aligned with a staging process from PBMAS. So you can either meet requirements, needs assistance, needs intervention, or needs substantial interventions. And again, those are married with staging. So districts can either get a stage of not staged all the way to stage 4. And just for purposes of what we would like to happen, every district looks to achieve a not staged status or a meets required. And where we don't want to go is to a stage 4, where we would need substantial intervention. So that determination status happens in a number of ways. Just like through the taper report, there's a lot of data that's sifted through. We look at federal and state performance plans, or what's called SPP, compliance indicators that are gathered throughout the school year. We look at data integrity, whether or not the data that's submitted by the Greenville ISD is valid, reliable, and sent timely. We also look at issues of uncorrected compliance. So for instance, if there are any monitoring activities that have gone on, such as any complaint resolutions, due process hearings, or anything like that. And then they also look at the special education audit findings. And a lot of the data that's reported for PBMAS is actually taken at that snapshot date, the year prior, in addition to other submissions for the state performance indicators. So based on all of that information that is gathered, we were determined to be at a stage 2, or needs assistance. And again, remembering that we go from not stage to stage 4, where we need substantial intervention. So we're at a spot where there are some areas that we need to look at and maybe need to improve upon, but we're not in a situation where we have any information at this time that has to be reported directly to TEA for our special education department. As a result of that information though, we are required to submit what's called a targeted intervention plan, our TIP, which looks at all the areas on the PBMAS report that has given a performance level of 2, 3, 4, and address those areas. And I'll show you an example of that PBMAS report on the next page. We don't have to submit that report to TEA, but it is required for us to gather information and develop that report in case there are any questions from TEA to say how we're moving to address any concerns that there might be that exist. So just to I highlighted a little bit of the areas that show a performance level of 3 or higher. And again, that range goes from 0, which means there are no concerns, to 4, which means there are some significant concerns that will require addressing in that targeted improvement plan. So looking here at the STAR passing rate, and this correlates with information from the taper report that you saw. We do expect that our students in special education would have some difficulties due to the nature of having a disability in performing, especially due to many instances where students are expected to take the same test as their general education peers with some designated supports. So there are some indicators there, but what we want to continue to look at is what the progress is for our students on a day-to-day basis. So here we have some areas of concerns of performance level of 3 or higher in the area of STAR passing rates for reading, science, social studies, and writing. And also at our ELC passing rates for science and English language arts, which are at performance levels of 3, and for our ELC English language arts at a performance level of 4. For our federal indicators, which look at our state performance plan compliance indicators, valid, reliable, and timely data, our status of uncorrected noncompliance, and other audits received a rating of 0, which means that our information at the time of reporting was considered by the federal government and the state agency to be accurate and timely. So as a result of that, like I said, we do have to come together to create a targeted intervention plan and a committee with members from several departments, including CTE, English language learners, our ESL, special education, and accountability came together to look at the indicators that were 3 or higher to establish some things that we need to do to improve upon that information. And so from that, we've determined that there needs to be continued training from staff. And as Dr. Liggins has pointed out, with his vision for all of our students deserve good quality first speech, we are making sure that all of our staff have an increased focus on targeted teaching methods. From a standpoint of special education, we're looking at IET development. So how we're developing these plans for our students. What are we doing to show their present levels, using that information to develop appropriate goals and objectives, and then determining their schedule of services, other services that they need, and making sure that they're in appropriate placements. From that, we're also doing internal auditing, student file reviews, making sure that evaluations are appropriate, and really reporting the information on how a student is able to perform and determining what eligibility or disability they may have, looking at their IEP documentation, and then looking at their overall special education folders to make sure that all the information that represents that student receiving special education services is accurate and meeting the student's needs. We're also looking at coding, particularly at how our preschool programs for children with disabilities, our children from the ages of 3 to 6, how they are coded and making sure that they're getting the appropriate location, meaning that are they in the right setting, making sure that they're appropriately accounted for, and then also looking at our instructional setting coding for our students. And then of course, we're making sure that we're paying close attention to the PEMS data that we're reporting to the state. Are there any questions that you guys have?
Are you asking questions about either of the reports, either special ed or?
Yes, special education and the general takeaway report.
Okay. I've got a statement and maybe a question. Because I'm really disappointed about the differences in the African American population and the white population on many of the tests that we've shown. And correct me if I'm wrong, but are those numbers widening the gap between the ethnic backgrounds? Is that what that's telling us?
We have in this report at least 2 years of data where we can really say that we can compare the prior year to this year. And if you look at that data, I don't believe we're seeing necessarily a widening of the gap over the prior year's data. I think what we're seeing is that we're just not meeting the needs of all students. The data is what the data is. It's not good. I don't know that the data, I can't say that the African American performance or the Hispanic performance is worse last year or this year. The data seems to be fairly static. You can look through the grade level performance and you'll see one group might have gone up a couple of points, but then in another grade level it might have gone down a couple of points. So it's really fairly static. Haven't done our due diligence in meeting the needs of all of our student representation.
So do our campus improvement plans address that fact?
They are required by law to address that fact. So I'm going to say that the campuses have done their due diligence in putting together reports which you have received and will be looking at in here and to put measures in to address. And Dr. Liggins has established clearly for all of us administratively, campus down all the way to the teacher and student level, that his goal and vision for this district is that all students will be successful. And we're putting measures in place, training teachers, working with students, planning, working at all different levels to improve performance overall.
I have a couple of questions. What is the biology teacher and the U.S. history teachers at the high school doing to make their tests, make their kids pass those tests that could be implemented in other classrooms? Because they seem to be knocking it out of the park, and yet they're still dealing with the kids that aren't doing well in English or math, but they're passing those tests. What are they doing?
That is a really good question. Every assessment has a different minimum score. And some of our assessments, the minimum score requirement is lesser than in other subjects. So that plays into some of that as a factor. But I do believe that we would and are looking at what teachers are doing to monitor, to find out what's being successful moving those students forward. We're assessing students every 9 weeks over content that has been taught over the 9-week period so that we can immediately address deficiencies and so that we can recognize and find what's working. And we're working with teachers and planning and trying to use.
I think also those two tests, it also accounts for, in addition to the passing rate possibly be lower, it also includes kids that they have to pass those tests in order to graduate, so they're counted. So if they take it 3 times throughout the year in order to pass it, if they pass it, that's the test that's included in it, not the 2 times that they failed. So they get, until they graduate, multiple times each year to take those tests. So it's not really reflective to comparison to the 3/8, so to speak, where unless it's 5th grade and 8th, where there are a couple of times where they can take them over, but even in that case, you can only take them twice, whereas, or 3 times, but only twice counts on the taper report. And so I think it's a variety of those factors involved, because those kids, and that's the first test that they take, so they have multiple opportunities to take that as they go on to 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade.
We put in a lot of coaches for subjects over the last couple of years, and we're still seeing that kids aren't reading as well as, nearly as well as they should be in some cases. What else do we need to do to get these kids reading?
Ms. Booth, you want to come speak to that?
Okay, so we are going to address that a little bit later also in the presentation, but we have put guided reading and guided math is something that we've added this year to make sure that we're hitting and differentiating every student's needs. We have iCoaches on the elementary campuses that is supporting the teachers to give them information about how to teach reading a little bit differently and differentiating. And then we do have the strategists that are talking content during the PLC. So those pieces have been put in place this year.
And another big thing that we're doing is at our higher grades, K1-2 teachers, for the most part, know how to teach a kid to read. But as we found in our data, we have kids that are in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th that still need to learn how to read. And so really getting those teachers the training to not just teach ELA, but in addition to that, to teach the phonemic awareness, the phonics necessary items that's necessary in order to teach a kid to actually read. And so that's another big issue that we're working through. And that's a challenge when you get a teacher who went to school to, I want to teach a novel and I want to teach it. So that's some of the things that we're hearing some teachers are not as pleased with, because we're saying, well, we can't teach the novel if we have kids in our class that can't read it. And so we're providing a lot of training in those instances as well.
just wanted to remind anybody in the public that this is a public hearing, a public forum hearing. If there are questions that you would like to ask of these two people regarding the report that they've gotten. Mr. DeGarza?
Thank you. I may have missed it, but what is the graduation rate, if you have the charts up there, of the African American, Hispanic, and white, whether it's ours, and then what compared to the state, what does the state do? Because I don't think every kid tests well. Neither of mine did on the state testing stuff. I may have missed it. So we have 90, the lowest there is 96%, and where's the state average?
93.8 is the state average. 95.8 is our African American subgroup, 97.3 Hispanic, and 98.5.
So all you guys are talking about is a state provided test that's between African American, Hispanic, and white, not what matters to get out of school, to graduate.
In order for students to graduate, they have to pass those tests.
Right.
Yes, so that's why we do spend a lot of time talking and having discussions around performance on that test, because these kids can't graduate without it.
So really, at the bottom line, we're above state average on everything. I mean, even though some of those charts that you showed, there was a 20-point difference between African American and the white that kept getting pointed out, but actually, everybody's graduating. And of that percent, the 100 that's not, how many of the African American, Hispanic, and white drop out?
Well, there was a dropout rate, very few drop out. We have the Houston Education Center, which does an excellent job of getting the credits recovered for those kids. Mr. Gregory and his staff do a phenomenal job with our kids. The data that is reported is 1 year's look at the test. Students have multiple opportunities. So when a child enters as a freshman and they take Algebra 1 for the first time, their freshman year of high school, they have 3 testing opportunities every year after the fact in order to pass, so that they can complete their graduation requirements. Legislatively, there were also some conditions that were put in for students to have a different avenue for, so if they were not successful on 2 of their assessments, there were projects that could be created, another assessment form for the students to show mastery that the state legislation put in place for some of these students as well, so that they could receive their diplomas. So we do have some of those students that are gaining diplomas in that form as well. We are above the state, and we will take it, and we will sing it and tote it proud. Yes,
Mr. DeGarza, I want to point out one other thing too. If you can go to the college readiness for both content areas, because I mean, I agree, we are doing a bang up job of making sure our kids are getting out of high school. However, it is our goal to ensure that they're ready for the next, that's college and career. Let's go back just to college and content areas. This is the amount of kids who have proven based off of passing rates that they're ready to go into college and pass in math and reading. And so although we're graduating, then we want to make sure that we are graduating people who are ready to go off and to pursue. The next page, if you will, also includes some of our CTE, which we're doing considerably better in as far as preparing them to at least have a job afterwards. But most of these kids will remain in our community. Most of these kids will, and I think it was Mr. Evans that spoke earlier about the income going down. So if we're graduating kids that are only capable of, that's the level of education they will receive and stop. All studies will show us now that they're not going to make a good living just with a high school diploma nowadays unless they have some other skill set to do that. So we're looking at really getting to the point to where not only are you just graduating at the minimum requirement, but you're graduating and you're ready to go to college and be successful as well, if that's your choice.
But that's still a test too, because my daughter graduated from here in 15, and no one has ever contacted her as, are you in school? Are you on track to graduate early? Which she is, as if all of y'all's kids that I do know will be, right? So that still to me, and I could be wrong, and I am wrong, I'm sure, but that to me is just on a test. You're not contacting the student and following them after you leave GISD.
Well, but Bethany goes to a Texas public college, and so the university's reporting that out on her.
So do you take that, not you specifically, do you take that, say Bethany DeGarso from Greenville, from GHS, and you follow that one kid?
Well, no, we know if they went to college or not. They're fresh after high school.
But
they don't follow it after that.
What they use for this metric, and it's tracked across the state, is examinations for advanced placement testing. So that's what makes up that metric. I think that's what you're asking is.
It's a test.
It is a test for AP classes.
You're telling me if my kid is college ready or not. It's not that I'm making them go to class, that I'm not, because that was one of the things I defended the high school, because my kid's not ready to go to A&M. Well, your kid parties all the time. Your kid doesn't have good study habits. Your kid did well on these tests, but that's not it. Every kid does not test well. Anyway, I'm sorry.
And I'll tell you, Joe, if you wanted to have a debate on testing, I'd be absolutely on your side. I don't agree that a test in any way really tells the whole story about a child. However, it's what we have to measure. It's what the state says, whether we're doing well or not. So we have to play the game.
Let me just add one thing. If you go all the way down and look through that, and I appreciate that glossary, that was great. I loved seeing that. But there's a lot of things that go into college and career ready metric that, if I read that right, didn't really have anything to do with any test. Didn't it include things like
It does include
CTE courses taken, number, things like that?
It does include dual credit. It includes performance on what's called the TSIA, which is this Texas Student Initiative Assessment, which is the college entrance exam. It's SAT, it's ACT performance, CTE, and dual credit. So there are several other measures that are going into that. That's coming in the next round of accountability. It's not in this current round.
So if a child, if a kid is taking 2 or 3 dual credit courses or taking some AP, IB courses, those, the state looks at that and says he's college and career ready.
Based on earnings, a certain number of credits for those dual credit courses, yes.
Right, no, and he may have failed them, who knows, they don't know.
They have to earn credit.
Those classes.
They have to earn credit, so he can't fail them and earn credit. So they have to earn credit, yes. So, but he can get a C-, you're right, so, yeah. Yes?
On the graduation rates, is there a breakout or a split to show how many were GED and how many were normal graduation?
There is on the reports, yes, a breakout on the graduation rates. Let me go back to that slide. I'll have to check my notes. That is graduation, that is GED and continuers. Continuers, yes. Continuers may be students that are not course complete or have not met some other aspect of testing for their graduation, and we have them enrolled the following school year in order to get them caught up and completed.
It would be interesting to see a breakout between those graduates.
And that information is available. I'd have to look at the report to see if it's split out on that report, but it is available, and I can get that information provided.
And if I can make one observation, then I'll be quiet. We have to understand the numbers we're seeing.
Yes.
Are previous years.
That's correct.
Under the previous administration and the previous management culture. We're going to see next year probably some rocky numbers as well, until the new administration and the new team set their expectations and their culture, and we see if it drives the numbers up and balances out with all the socioeconomic groups. So you just have to keep that in mind when you're exploring these numbers.
Thank you.
I really just have more of a statement, and I always struggle a little bit with this because, like everybody else, I'm not in favor of focusing so much on testing. You know, what it does to the classroom environment, I'm not a fan of. But I do think that all of these metrics are indicators, and so it's one of those things where you hate to focus so much on it, but you also have to acknowledge it. And a few of the things that I noticed as I was looking through the data is consistently, on elementary campuses, we're falling below state averages, almost in all of the subjects that we're taking. Our student demographics are comparable to the state. They're very closely in line, yet we perform lower than them at those levels. College readiness really disappointed me, not just for GISD, but at a state level. We're looking at 50% of the kids in the entire state of Texas only testing to be ready for college. And Greenville was at, I think, 44% in comparison to the 50%. So that was just a factor. And I did have a couple of questions regarding our special ed status, status. I saw some bullet points on the action plan, but I wasn't really clear on what led us to a stage 2 status. So I was wondering if you could explain to me what caused that result.
Based on the information presented in all those indicators, so looking at the breakdown, and can you go back to the PBMS report page? So it looks at all these indicators, not just testing. It looks at the percentage of students in particular programs. It looks at how they scored on certain assessments, but it also looks at the number of students with disabilities in certain categories and all of that. So the information that's reported, in addition to those state performance indicators are specific to certain age ranges, how they're performing academically, how we're reporting information, all looks at that to come up with that combination of status
I think
determinations.
So to make sure I'm understanding, is it a result of testing results, or is it more a result of compliance and paperwork issues?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
It's testing results, how our students in special education are performing on those assessments, and then also the information that we are reporting on how we represent our students and how they are counted.
Okay.
Yes.
I had a question, actually maybe several questions, but I think it might be helpful if you could go back to one of the colorful graphs showing elementary performance, maybe a third or fourth or fifth. Okay, go to one with, yeah, there we go. Okay, so the state number, is that all students, all fourth grade students taking the reading test in the state?
Yes, that's
across all, I mean, all demographics combined?
Combined, yes. And this first bar here is Greenville ISD, all demographics combined.
Okay.
So we trail 10 points on grade 4 reading behind the state average.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I was understanding that, and that's the way I was understanding. Okay.
You are understanding.
So then moving on to the African American. I'm particularly bothered by the elementary performance lags because, gosh, if you don't get off to a good start, then it's just setting up for a lot of years of making up later on. So the 40%, do you have a way, and I believe you've presented on this to us before, where you can look, plumb the depths of the data and determine for these students, what are some commonalities of the struggling ones in that group? Since it's all African American fourth graders taking the reading test, are we going to be able to determine, who it is that's having the biggest problem? And are they across the board 40, or do we have some that are, more in line with the Hispanic and the white students? And can we kind of plumb down and get at it?
Yes, we can. The reports that we receive when student scores come in disaggregated by campus report and district report, but also a student level report. The report itself then breaks down into the reporting categories, the number of questions that were assessed, and the number of questions that each individual student answered correctly within that reporting category. There's a blueprint available by the state, so we know exactly which student expectations fit under which reporting categories. Part of what we're doing with our 9-week assessments is we're looking at those SEs and we're looking at these kids that have not been successful in the past, and we're narrowing that down to see what is it that they're not getting and how can we meet the needs of those students and reintroduce, spiral back into our curriculum as we move forward in order to remediate and to help those students gain that knowledge to be more successful in the future.
Thank you for explaining that. And another thing that I think, just a suggestion for future presentations, what would be helpful to me when I look at this is to have a population number associated with those bars, so that we can see, you know, if we're comparing a 52% to 40%, you know, is that 100 kids compared to 450 kids? What are we comparing? The size of the sample.
I can certainly do that. Yeah, not a problem. And I will say that to compare this 40% to this 70%, statistically it's insignificant because of the size of the denominators within those subgroups. But it does at least give us some indicator for
It's not nothing.
No, it's not nothing. Definitely not nothing. So.
Okay. Thank you very much for that information.
I have a couple. I didn't know if you wanted to wait till the public hearing was over, or you want us to go now, or?
No, you can go ahead and go now if you have questions now regarding the Payne's report.
Regarding the taper.
The taper report, I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead now.
Okay, on page 104 of the agenda, which is page 14 of the taper report, and I know you're not showing the taper report, but just for everybody's reference.
For the district or the campuses?
For the district. All my questions will be for the district report. We show, I'm looking at the advanced course, dual credit course completion, grades 11, 12. Okay, we're well below the state on most of these, but the science in particular, 1%. This is dual credit, advanced course, dual credit course completion. Okay, so I did ask Dr. Liggins this question. He gave me an answer, but I do have a follow-up. Dr. Liggins, he explained that the 1%, okay, 1%, that's about 6 students in 11th and 12th grade. So 6 students are taking some dual credit science class, and that's biology from your answer, is that correct? So I'm curious, is that a dual credit biology, or is it an AP biology? Dual credit.
Yeah, this indicator is restricted to dual credit.
Okay. That just puzzled me. I'm just curious, and maybe some of the other board members who have had students in high school, I would have thought that most kids would take dual credit biology in high school if they could, because isn't that pretty much a core course for freshmen in high school? Wouldn't you want to get that out of the way?
Yeah, the issue is they're freshmen, so you usually don't take dual credit into your 11th and 12th grade year.
Right, but this is in the 11th and 12th grade, and there's only 6 students in our school that year that took dual credit biology.
Because most of them take biology their freshman year or sophomore year.
Oh, in high school, so
yes.
Okay.
And so by the time they're eligible for dual credit, biology isn't an option because they've already gotten a single credit for high school.
So they don't really care about getting the college credit out of the way early.
Because it wouldn't give them another high school credit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So is that?
Yeah. That biology dual credit does count as a 4th year, and that's a biology for non-majors. So a lot of our kids who are going in the medical field take the A and P, anatomy and physiology, which is honors, 5.0 class, but it's not, we don't do it for AP. So those kids will take that. If a high school kid is gonna do any medical class, that biology will not help them. We used to have some higher numbers than that. We lost our main dual credit teacher, so she came up here and worked in central office. So our numbers went down in that. Now what we do, because the numbers are low, and the teacher we have now, he's not certified in that, so we do a online class through PJC, and he helps proctor that along with AP, because the numbers are so low this year. We are building that up and talking to those kids and understanding how important that is to go ahead and for your fourth year science, plus you get that 8 hours of dual credit. My son took advantage of it, and that is one of the reasons why he had 30 plus hours doing everything we offer. So we're building that up as we speak to next year to explain to kids who are not going to major in medical to go that way.
So that was my next question. I think you answered the teacher of this dual credit biology class is actually a PJC teacher, not.
Well, it's online this year.
It's online.
In the past, we had Ms. Miller who would teach that, and we would have about 20 or so kids. She had those kids as freshmen, and they wanted to take her to their senior year. And then when she came up here, we had a new guy take that, so he didn't have a relationship with some of those kids, so they jumped and went to the A&P class and not understanding why it was important. And I remember that conversation I had with those kids, this is what you want to do, but they took forensics as another senior class in most of our state, or forensics, or forensics or food science. So this group next year that we have coming up, they'll be seniors, that number will increase.
And will it be taught by a GISD employee or by a PJC employee?
He gets his master's degree, hopefully he'll be teaching that, yes sir. Because he's about 3 hours, or he's got to finish one thing this summer, or before the summer, and he should be able to teach it on campus.
I was wondering if the numbers stay low, where there's only 6 kids taking it, I wonder if there's a way we could have them take it at PJC and we wouldn't have to hire a teacher, let PJC hire that teacher, and we get the same benefit, but just a thought. On that same page, well, the electromechanical class is a dual credit class. There's actually four courses that make up that certification. I guess I assumed it would have been a science, but obviously it's not science. So do you know what classifications, English, arts, math, science, or social studies, that electromechanical courses, what are they classified?
Math.
Math, okay. I'm sorry, I've got a few questions here. So the advanced course / dual credit, that does not include AP courses or IB courses. That is strictly dual credit.
I'll have to look at the glossary to confirm.
Okay. On page 16 of the district report, there's a category called AP / IB results. And this says participation, but I believe in the glossary, this is actually who took the test.
This is the percentage of students that we got participate, yes, by taking the test.
Participate in the test.
Yes. Underneath that category, AP, IB results, examinees greater than or equal to criterion, that would be the students that performed at the AP 3 or above.
Okay. So up to the participation, I'm just struck that our participation rates are way extremely double digits below the state. And so I asked Dr. Liggins, he did respond. to that, you know, what is causing that? Why is it that our kids aren't taking that test? And I'm just, I don't know, I'm curious, 1%, 1%, 4%, 2%, where the state's 25, 15, 10 and whatnot. To me, there's only two reasons that a kid would take one of those courses. They want the college credit, or, and obviously that's not it, because none of them are taking the test. So they can't be taking it because they want the credit. So the other thing I can think, why would you take that test, that course, is, well, I think it will better prepare me for college.
To take it in college.
To take it in, it will better prepare me for this class in college, but I'm thinking, so if you can get the credit, why not just go ahead and take the test, get the credit now, you know, rather than I'll be prepared for. Okay, that's what I thought.
But if you, Keith may have to correct this, but I think if you're a student, my son didn't have to take that test in order to enroll at PJC because of his performance and coursework.
And guys, let's be careful now, because we're kind of getting off of our report that, we're going into some individual cases that we probably need to take up at another time.
Okay, let me bring it back home.
Okay.
To specifically page 16, our participation rates in the AP, if you guys can look, it's on page, I don't know, are you guys looking at it? It's page 106 in the agenda. Is that something that, I mean, we spend a lot of money, I assume, on AP teachers and if there's only, I don't know how many students we're talking about, if there's only 3 or 4 or 5, 10 students in those classes, and they're not even taking the test, I mean, I still struggle, I don't understand why they're taking the class if they're not gonna take the course. Help me out, is there a lot of benefit to these classes?
Yeah, there's a lot of benefit to these classes. I would hate to not have these classes. But I don't know it, because I'm not looking at it, but when I asked some of the same questions 2 or 3 years ago that you're asking tonight, I was told, well, we're now, some of the kids can't do it, financially, and some kids, they take the class